Welcome to Coffee with Democrats, a sensible platform for progressive conversations. Coffee with Democrats is a grassroots movement dedicated to hearing from Democrats, candidates, legislators, and friends from all political backgrounds who want great conversations. Coffee with Democrats is committed to increase Democrat voter registration and Democrat voter turnout by making voting more exciting and meaningful. And now here's your host of Coffee with Democrats, Kevin Dawson.
All right, welcome to Coffee with Democrats. We have a special guest today with us, Tambrie Cash. She is running for Georgia. She is running in the, I got to move my screen around here a little bit. She's running in the 9th Congressional District in Georgia. She is with us live, and this is going to be an exciting day to have this conversation with her. Again, a little bit of housekeeping. We need to announce that we want you to share your experience on Coffee with Democrats with all of your friends and all of the people in social media. So we will be on Twitter Live. We will be on Facebook Live. We will be on YouTube Live. So if you want to know where to find us on Coffee with Democrats, we are on YouTube Live at Coffee with Democrats 7998. Facebook Live, just go to Facebook and type in Coffee with Democrats. You'll find us on there. And also on Twitter X Live, just type in @Coffee with Dems. We ran out of room. They didn't give us enough room for Coffee with Democrats. So this is Coffee with Democrats. Let's find out a little bit about each other, and let's find out a little bit about our favorite morning wake-up drink. So again, this is coffee. So we like to have a little bit of coffee, and if we don't have coffee, we like to have a coffee substitute. So what is, Tambrie, what is your most favorite when you get up out of bed in the morning, you're trying to get your day started, and you just, all right, I got to go to the kitchen, or I got to go to, the pantry, and I'm going to pull out, what is your favorite drink?
I usually will start the morning with a Diet Dr. Pepper. It's in a thing, but to keep it cold. Usually like in the wintertime, I just do plain coffee with cream and sugar.
Okay. Well, hey, that's something right there. Yeah. My favorite coffee every morning, I get started with McCafe in a pod at home. I don't go to McDonald's, but I just get the McCafe coffee at the store. And I have one big glass of that. And like I've said so many times, I don't like the taste of coffee. I never have liked the taste of coffee, but because my previous job that I had for 43 years, I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And being up in the middle of the night going to work, I needed something to help stimulate and keep me going. And I just grew to love McCafe coffee in the last 20 years. And I always doctor it up because I don't like the taste of it. I always put a lot of creamer and a lot of sweetener in it. So that's my favorite go-to. And so anyhow, I'm gonna read a little bit about Tambrie. And again, I want to make sure people understand how to pronounce your name, Tambrie.
Yeah.
So and the last name is so easy. Cash, she always needs it. She's always in need of it. So don't hold back. Let's get some cash going to her direction.
Right.
So Tambrie is a Georgia native, born and lived there her entire life. One of the most astounding things that I read on your bio is that gun violence made you a widow at age 20 years of age. As a very, very young lady, a bride, you lost your partner to gun violence. And that's such a sad testimony for anybody to have to deal with at any time during their life.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine how that has framed your life from that point on.
It definitely taught me a lot from a very early age. Yeah.
And it's so sad. So I don't know how to ask if you want to go into detail about that. Whatever detail you want to provide is sufficient. We don't want to, we're not a news organization where we want to get all the nitty gritty, and we don't need to
Yeah.
go into the crimes and all that stuff that took place. But if you want to tell us a little bit about what happened, we would
It was
appreciate
a
it.
family dispute. It didn't have anything to do with him. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Oh, shoot.
So, yeah, they were targeting his father.
Oh,
So, yeah, it was tragic because he was only 22. And it was actually 2 days before my 19th or 2 days before my 20th birthday. So I was technically only 19.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
From that point, you have become a mom of three.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of them is biological and two through love, which
Yeah.
I love the way you say that because I have 8 grandchildren and three are through love.
Yeah.
And that is such a wonderful
Well,
statement.
my current partner, he had two kids when we got together, and I raised them for almost 11 years now. So, and they both graduated high school last May.
Right.
And that was when I made the bold decision to run for Congress. Because I guess I was done. It's not that you're ever done as a parent, but I
Right.
was sort of done.
Empty nester.
Yeah.
And said that they graduated. One just started college and the other one enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, and he ended up having to come home for medical reasons.
That happens.
But I think he's thinking about re-enlisting in the Air Force.
You
So,
know what? With all the people in my family that are in the
yeah,
Air Force, I
yeah,
think it's a great place to go. I think
yeah,
it's, yeah, yeah. I don't want to diminish anybody's desire to serve our nation. And
right.
if they can do it through the Air Force, that's probably one of the best
Well, it's
places.
what he's wanted to do since he was little.
Right.
And he just had to get a medical clearance for something. So he's still, he's still only 18, so he's still thinking, okay, what am I going, which direction to go? Because he can't decide whether he wants to go back into the Marines, the Air Force, or what he wants to do, or just go on into college. So he's still working that out. And then the other one went into college, and then the other one graduated from college at the same
Oh,
time as the other two graduated from high school.
that's such a fun age, though, to be honest with you. The early
Yeah.
20s and trying to develop their life.
Hmm.
It's such a fun age. And it's now that we are at the point in our lives, we can appreciate watching them go through what they're doing.
Right.
So that's fun. You started your life by going to West Central Tech. Where is that
Mhm.
located at?
It's out in Douglasville, Georgia, west of Atlanta.
Okay. So
I've lived all over Georgia.
one of the things when you and I we first met, we talked on the telephone, and I commented. I said, "Are you from Georgia? Because you don't have that normal Georgia." I just heard it. I just heard it for the first time. So thank you for sharing.
It goes in and out.
um, you are a former business owner of a flooring industry.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of an interesting thing. A young lady being involved in a flooring industry.
Yeah. It was definitely a male-dominated field.
Right, right.
But
And
yeah, I basically would just, I was in flooring sales. So, but I had my own company doing it.
in its that contrasts to what you went to school for, which was in the medical field.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Um, the thing is where I was at in Douglasville, it was pretty much you couldn't get a job in the medical field unless somebody died.
right.
So I did move down to Florida to try to get into the medical field. And I lasted about 3 months down there. And I was like, no, coming back home.
Yeah, there's nothing like, there's so many songs about the Florida Georgia line,
Yeah.
but there's such a dichotomy, there it's almost like you've got that southern hospitality in Georgia, but you cross over into Florida and you've got a different take on life altogether. And I
Yeah.
think that maybe has to do with the number of people that come from New England to Florida for
Yeah.
vacation and retirement.
Yeah.
And so that may
Well,
have
and
some,
there's a large retirement community. down in Florida. And at the time I was young.
Yeah.
And so the town that I was in Sarasota, and the median age down there was 65.
Right. Right.
So that had to do with it too. But also it was just so hot. Whew. I thought
Yeah.
it was hot up here. It's way hotter down there.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It and it the what we always think the further south you go into the tropics. That
Yeah,
doesn't include Florida.
right.
You have to go further south to get into the tropics.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Tambrie and a little bit more about what you are involved in. Let's talk. We've got four basic things to talk about. We're going to try to wrap this up uh, about 11 o'clock your time, 10 o'clock my time.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about your platform and
Okay.
what you're basing your race on. So, because this is kind of the most important thing why people come on Coffee with Democrats. They want to know about the candidate and why they're running.
Well, okay. So my platform is long because there's so many issues. I think that the most important issues for this election are going to be women's rights
Thank you very much.
and our democracy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, for me as a woman, I I have fewer rights today than the day I was born. Roe went into effect the year I was born.
Right.
So, and now that they're coming after IVF,
Hmm.
they're going to be coming after birth control. Um, and the thing is that we've got all these people making these rules who don't have a medical degree.
Right.
They don't understand what they're even talking about. The majority of them don't even understand a woman's anatomy. Okay.
True.
And, women use birth control for all sorts of things other than family planning.
Right.
Um, you know, hormone issues. There's just the list, it goes on and on of reasons why women are prescribed birth control to help them, and it has nothing to do with family planning. But aside from that, the government doesn't have any right to tell me when and where I can have a kid.
Right.
I just, and I think I would say the majority, I, I hope it's all, but I would think all women feel that way.
Right. So you saw yesterday the state of Arizona, the legislature out there actually denied they were going to codify uh, the the ability to have birth control. And they just took that right away.
Wow.
Um,
No, I
and
didn't actually see that for
and
Arizona.
yeah, they said they're not going to give women the right to birth control. And
That's
one of the main senators out there actually said something so demeaning and so nasty yesterday. It's not worth repeating, but I'll mention it anyway. He said that Bayer Corporation invented the aspirin, that women need to put that aspirin between their knees.
I
And
heard
that
that.
is such that is
Mhm.
so degrading.
Because women get themselves pregnant.
Yeah, it's always the woman's fault. I mean, don't regulate the sperm by any means.
Right.
It's always the woman's fault. And the next step is, we're going to, they're already taking birth control away, or excuse me, not birth control, they're the right to an abortion away. They're
Mhm.
taking the right to birth control away. The next thing within what Project 2025 is to just force women into the kitchen.
Right.
What's next? The right to vote or the
Yes.
right to free speech?
Well, North Carolina just nominated a guy for governor who
Oh yeah,
literally said that he wants to go back to when women couldn't vote.
right. And he is a person of color,
He
and it's
is.
so demeaning. Some of the
Hmm.
comments that he makes, and it's so strange to hear him say those things because yeah, we know that the way the amendments were written, that in 1869, the amendment was established to give people of color the right to vote, but they really didn't get the right to vote until the 1960s with the
Right.
Civil Rights Acts.
Mm-hmm.
And women having the right to vote preceded that.
Right.
So it's kind of strange how he's trying to put things together in
I
his
don't
own mind.
understand it because, that'll be next.
Sure,
I'm
absolutely.
just saying.
And we're hearing a lot of people talk about interracial marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So
And how is Clarence Thomas going to justify that one?
because he doesn't identify as black,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that I'm guessing is taking place is
Rules for thee, but not for me.
there you go. There you go.
Um,
So we talked a lot about, your platforms. Georgia has kind of the same situation that you have going on in Georgia, the same thing that we have going on here. We have a public teaching crisis. We have a public school crisis. The voucher system is being put out by an organization called ALEC, and
mhm.
ALEC is writing the legislation for Missouri, for Arkansas, for Oklahoma, for Georgia
Mhm.
to try to um, it's really a cash grab to cause people to have to pay more money to put their children in school
Right.
instead of having free public education the way that they have right now. And this goes back to my take on it is we can look at, and again, I want to give you more opportunity to talk, and I apologize for taking your time
No,
in
that's
this,
okay.
but we saw in the 1970s up to 1970, college degree work was mostly free. Until
Mhm.
you got to the doctorate level, then you had to pay a little bit out of, and had to get some student loans and things. But really, student loans didn't take place until after 1970.
Right.
Up until then, education was free until they realized that people of color started
Mhm.
utilizing that opportunity. And then it was like, no, if people of color are going to have to come in, we're going to have to raise the cost so that
Right.
nobody can go. And I see the same thing happening now.
Yes.
They want to marginalize,
Mhm.
Hispanics. They want to marginalize blacks. They want to marginalize, Asians, and say, all right, if you're not white, you're going to have to pay to go to the school, and the school gets to pick and choose
Right.
who they want to have in their school. So if a
Yeah.
person has, as parents, you and I, we're parents of children. If one of our children has a severe mental illness or physical illness,
Mhm.
and they're going to have additional people to help that person go through school, they're not going to give any assistance. They'll deny that person have access to public or to education because it will no longer be public.
Well, the voucher system is basically a way to take public school funding, taxpayer dollars, and help people who can already afford private school.
Right, right,
And people who can't afford private school are going to be left with the crumbs. And so, no, I don't think that's right. They're actually trying to push that through the Georgia House right now as we speak
right,
in this session. So, yeah, it's a scam. And basically, these people come in with these big, big dollars and they get these politicians in their pockets and they say, look, I want to make all this money on my private school over here, and I want to take these taxpayer dollars, and I need you to help me do it.
right.
That's basically what it is. It's a cash grab.
It is exactly right. Yeah, we're on the same page when it comes to that. And so we had a very good person come on Coffee with Dems last week, and she talked about what was going on within Oklahoma. And she said basically Oklahoma's public education system is broken so bad and has been broken for so long that the last couple of years, you could actually go to a satellite in outer space and see the teachers leaving not literally, but figuratively,
Yeah.
you could see people leaving from outer space, teachers leaving. Do you
Hmm.
foresee the same thing happening in Georgia?
Absolutely. Um, like I was saying, the kids just graduated last May, and they were already talking about how there were many classes that didn't have a teacher.
Yeah,
So they're utilizing their substitutes more, more like a lot because there's so many teachers who have chosen to leave.
and the qualifications for a substitute are not the same as they are
No,
for a
no,
teacher. They don't have to, in most cases, especially in Oklahoma, they don't have to have any degree work whatsoever. They can
right.
just, be somebody that
They're basically just fillers. Yeah,
yeah. And the sad thing is what we're seeing is they're people that are coming from the evangelical side who want to proselytize as they teach, and they want to indoctrinate
right,
children into a very narrow Christian belief.
right.
So, which is sad on all
It's
degrees.
not the Christian belief that I was raised up in.
Thank you. You're exactly right.
It's,
The Christian belief of love. Yeah,
yeah.
right.
And the thing is, like, I mean, I grew up Southern Baptist.
Yeah.
Jesus was an immigrant. And
Yes.
the way that they're attacking immigrants right now, it's mind numbing at this point.
Correct. Yeah. I completely agree with you on that. Um, we also have an issue going on in Oklahoma, and I think you're going to share that something very similar is taking place in Georgia, is the public health crisis.
Right.
We're seeing doctors that are leaving out of Oklahoma, particularly when it comes to OBGYN care. We
Yep.
have I can't even say it now,
OBGYN.
OGBYN
Mm-hmm.
deserts in Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
because the doctors have been attacked so frequently that
Mm-hmm.
they don't even feel like they can give proper medical advice.
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Georgia when it comes to the health crisis?
Yeah, the same thing. When they pass these bans and stuff, and you know, possibly they can face charges for giving proper medical care to women. Yeah, there are healthcare deserts in North Georgia, like all across the state.
Right,
Um, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to be a doctor in a red state, if I'm being honest. I mean, because going to jail, then what?
right.
They can't help anybody when they're in jail. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot more consequences down the road from all of this. People are choosing not to study in, red states because they can't get the proper education because abortion is part of healthcare.
Right.
I mean, when you have a miscarriage, when you have an ectopic pregnancy, there are so many instances where, it's necessary and they're literally killing women with these, barbaric laws.
Right. Which brings us to our next topic, which is talking about women's rights and bodily autonomy. And,
Right.
that's one of your platforms. And
Hmm.
we need to talk a little bit more about that and let you have the opportunity to have the platform to talk more about it.
Well, I mean, short and sweet, it's none of the government's business. My health care, any woman's health care, that is between them, their doctor, and their family. The government shouldn't have anything to do with it. These people that are making these laws, they're not medical professionals for the most part. Um, and like I said, half of them don't even understand women's anatomy, much less complicated healthcare issues when it
Right.
comes to, miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, all sorts of, conditions. I'm not a doctor either, but I know more than a lot of these politicians do that are making laws about my body.
But again, you did go to school at West
Mhm.
Central Tech in the
Yeah.
medical field.
Hmm.
So, the very basics that you had to have had some knowledge of is anatomy
Yeah.
and
Well, I
and
also
pro
I own the anatomy, so
True that.
I know I know a lot more than most of those guys sitting up there making rules about it.
Right. So that you're exactly right. When it comes to, women's rights, you know, my generation, I saw my generation at a very young age struggling and seeing, women that protested so hard
Mhm.
on the streets, at the
Yeah.
courthouse, and at the state house, and at the Capitol in Washington, D.C., and they're making
Yeah.
these marches for women's rights and
Mhm.
inequality. Those were, the fundamentals that I saw that women were struggling with in the 1960s.
Mhm.
And it really came about. And the sad thing about this, we also saw the majority of the Christian churches start believing and actually advocating for women's bodily autonomy in the 1960s and 1970s,
Mhm.
because it wasn't just, racial equality that people were asking for in the 60s. It
Right.
was also bodily autonomy.
Mhm.
And we saw that all of those marches taking place in the 60s and 70s, and it was, people would call them radical, but those beliefs established one of the fundamental laws, Roe v. Wade,
Mhm.
and it was celebrated as the law of the land, with the
Right.
exception of a very small group of people in the religious sects that really started, as a pebble of sand, but they kept growing and growing to the point where, you know, um, it's
I think
now.
it was Jerry Falwell that started all of that.
Yes. And where is Jerry Falwell from?
Oklahoma?
No, no.
I don't
No,
know
I
where he's
won't.
from.
I digress. I won't even go there. That, yeah, I'll say probably from hell, but that wouldn't be appropriate either. Well, let's talk just a little bit. We got about 10 minutes left here. Let's give you the platform for you to talk to us about some of the other issues that you think are most important, that you want to convey. Why should people vote for Tambrie?
Well, I believe in freedom. And I think that, one thing that the Republican Party used to stand for was no government overreach.
Right,
And I think that they have done a 180 and they are encroaching on the freedoms of almost everyone.
right,
Um, Women, people of color, the LGBTQ community. And so, I mean, if you're for freedom, this is not how you do it. We need to get Democrats in there. We need to codify Roe v. Wade. We need to codify the right to birth control. We need to codify, LGBTQ rights. If you're human, you deserve the same rights as any other human.
right,
It
right,
shouldn't matter what gender you are. It shouldn't matter what color you are. Um, it shouldn't matter who you love. It's none of the government's business who I love or who he loves or who she loves or who they love.
right,
Um, and aside from that, our democracy is at stake. They want to install dictators and they want to sympathize with Russia.
right,
Like as a 50-year-old woman, I never thought I'd see the day where I see all these Southern people sympathizing with Russia.
right.
Um, like that is just like, do y'all not remember World War II?
Or the Cold War,
Like,
Korea,
I mean,
Vietnam.
we fight fascists.
Yeah,
And now we've got, almost what, at least a third of one of our parties that are pro-fascism. Like I don't know. Like their grandfathers would be rolling over in their graves. I know that.
absolutely.
So yeah, we need to shore up our democracy. I mean, what happened in 2021 um can happen again. And basically our democracy held, but just barely, and only because a handful of people decided that they were going to uphold the Constitution
Right.
rather than be a sycophant.
Right.
So we need to shore that up.
And we also have a candidate running for president right now who has said that there are certain parts, we don't know what part or all of the Constitution should be overruled in order to give him absolute power.
Right.
We're talking about absolute immunity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that it's not absolute immunity that he's seeking, it's absolute power.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of people within the Republican Party, people in Georgia, very well-known people who are currently in Congress, who
Mm-hmm.
want to see that constitutional rights are taken away from people. Talk to us a little bit about your opponent. We don't have to name him, but we talked on the phone, you and I did, and we
Um,
talked earlier about your opponent and some of the craziness that we see from this
yeah.
person.
Well, I was running against a really loud Republican, and now I'm running against one that has a much smaller reach, no megaphone, but silent but dangerous.
Right.
Um, he is the one who gave Congress members the AR-15 lapel pins,
Oh, for crying
and
out loud.
he is the one who was cowering behind the guy with the gun in the Capitol on January 6th when the mob came in, and then said that it was just a regular tourist visit.
Right. Right.
But there's photos of him going, you know,
Right.
cowering. So
Right.
he was obviously scared for his life.
Yeah.
And probably because he's not as recognizable as some members. And he might have gotten, caught up in the mix if,
Right.
they didn't know who he was. So, yeah, we got to get the extremists out of government. We've got to get them, like, we have to, as the American people, stand up and decidedly shut them down.
Right.
Like, I would love to see a landslide on this.
And we deserve a landslide, to be honest with
Hmm.
you, because we have been taken backwards so far with
Yes.
and our standing within the world is declining, and it's
Yeah.
declining because, like you said, we've got these sycophants that just don't understand. They don't care. They
No.
really don't care about anything beyond the tip of their own nose.
Right.
So we've got Scott Hamilton that's joining us online now, and I'd like to have him, hear a little bit about your campaign, and
Hmm.
so let's talk. Let's talk about your campaign.
Okay.
You know, let's talk. You're basically by yourself doing this campaign,
Hmm.
or what is your campaign team comprise right now?
Right now it's me and my son, my old,
Okay.
yeah. He does like all the digital stuff for me, and he goes to events with me and stuff.
But you've
But
got
yeah, I've been doing most of it.
in Georgia, your Democratic Party. Tell us
Uh,
a little bit about your participation with the Democratic Party of Georgia.
Um, I mean, up until I decided to run for Congress, I wasn't as involved as I should have been.
Sure.
And
I,
I think
I,
that's true for a lot of people.
exactly. I was going to say that's not unique just to
I
you.
start, well, I won't say that I wasn't involved. I wasn't involved like in the party itself. I donated to candidates.
Right.
Obviously, I vote in every election. And I pay attention. Like, I think what made a lot of people wake up as far as paying attention was COVID,
Right.
because we had time to sit and pay attention.
Right.
Because I think it's by design that, minimum wage hasn't gone up in 15 years, and people are working so hard just to make ends meet and keep their head above water.
Right.
And, some people are working multiple jobs. just to pay the bills. And so, when you're in a situation like that, which I have been, because, I was a single mom for many years,
Right.
and a single poor mom. I mean, I've been poor, I've been homeless even. And you are so busy trying to survive that you don't have time to pay attention to politics.
Right.
And the goal for me is to try to get people to understand that whether you have time or not, you need to pay attention to this, because politics affects everything in our lives, even time. Look at daylight savings time.
Right.
Politics affects everything, like literally everything. Our time, our water, our children, our bodies. So we
Right.
have to find a little bit of time, to pay attention.
What's interesting is, and it's a sad dichotomy, but you're talking about when people are struggling so hard just to make ends meet, or in fact, wind up without shelter. Um, those are the very people that politics often has the greatest sledgehammer for.
Yeah.
So when you share your story with fellow Georgians, how do they respond to your own journey?
I have gotten excellent feedback. I think people are like starved for regular people. And I think that as long as, they're not, crazy extremists, conspiracy theorists, regular people are our best representatives because they've lived it, they understand it. And like my opponent, a multimillionaire, we need to stop electing multimillionaires because they don't represent the masses. Um, and we have way too many multimillionaires in Congress.
Message received.
Well,
Uh-oh.
I agree with that. And, that that group of people they don't respond well to the common people.
Right.
And that's what the House of Representatives really is. It's derived from, in England, the House of Commons, the House of the Common Voice. And that's why having somebody like yourself who has that common voice, the voice of the everyday person. I'm just going through your platform, and I'm seeing such wonderful things on here. One of the things that we haven't talked about, and it's the very first thing at the top of your platform, protecting Social Security and Medicare.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that we keep seeing on a daily basis that's under attack. If you want to talk, well, and also veterans benefits too, because
Absolutely.
veterans benefits those are all things that people have earned because of the position or the task that they have chosen to do to help, either their own life, but they also help with the economy and the overall being of the United States.
Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that Social Security is not an entitlement.
Right.
Okay. We paid into it our entire lives. That's our money.
Right.
And we didn't get a say when Congress decided to dip into it.
Right.
And now they don't want to pay it back.
Right.
I mean, Social Security wouldn't be struggling had Congress not dipped into it.
Yeah,
It was,
exactly.
self-sufficient. And secondly, Mr. Trump just did an interview where he has said now that he wants to cut it.
Right.
So, if you value your Social Security, or the hope that you might get it one day, I suggest you vote Democrat.
Right. And particularly cash for Georgia.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's where we want to start right there. That we've talked about reproductive rights. We've talked about gun freedom. These are all things directly off of your platform that's on your website.
Yes.
Protecting our environment. You and I talked earlier about, some of the things that we see within our weather. And one of the things that you talked about is that has changed is our jet stream.
Right.
It's just
It
amazing.
used to be like this, and now it's like this.
Right.
And that's why we keep getting all these, excuse me, that's why we keep getting all these extremes in weather.
Right.
And, eventually, we're going to be in a position where some of our country is going to be uninhabitable from the heat.
Right.
And I feel like it's going to be at least within my lifetime. So, you know, as a mother, I don't want to leave that behind for my children.
Right.
Because then what? Where are they going to go?
One of the big topics that you have on your platform is tax reform. Talk to us
Yeah.
a little bit about that, what that should look
I
like.
think that the wealthy need to pay their fair share. There's absolutely no reason why a billionaire should be paying less than a teacher in
Right.
taxes. And corporations, they need to pay to play.
Right.
If I have to pay to play to run for Congress, then they should pay to play to do commerce in the United States.
Well, we're down
Very
to
well
the,
said.
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
No, no, I just said that's very well said. And I'm really delighted to hear you say that because we're not hearing that voice strongly enough, I think, right now.
You hear
When
it from the young
states,
people.
exactly right, exactly right. But we're not hearing it enough from Congress. So
Yeah.
I'm delighted that this is a high point for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not fair that the 99% pays everything when the 1% hoards most of the wealth. And like, I don't understand what their end game is, because once they take all of the wealth out of our country and, we can't afford to live down here on the bottom, then what? Who's going to buy their products to keep making them money?
right.
Like, it just doesn't make logical sense to me.
Yeah,
And
it's very short term thinking. You're right.
we have to agree with everything that you've said so far too. We're
Yeah.
on one accord. So as the last few minutes tick down here for us with Coffee with Democrats and in the time that we have with you, give us kind of an idea of what your candidate speech looks like. Can you share that with us? When you go into a room with people and they want to hear about your story and what you stand for, can you share that?
Well, I mean, I'm a mother and I want to leave behind a better legacy for my children than what is currently playing out. I want to leave behind a democracy. I want to leave behind an inhabitable earth.
Right,
I want to, I want children to feel safe going to schools, and I want the schools to offer an education that you don't have to pay for.
right,
Um, our tax dollars are enough to provide, public education, to provide health care for everyone.
right,
I mean, we didn't really touch on that very much, but universal health care. If other, civilized nations can do it, why can't we? Like,
right,
are we dumb?
right,
I mean, if they can figure it out and, they don't pay, I think they pay maybe slightly more in taxes, but not, an extravagant amount, and they get all sorts of stuff for their taxes.
right.
So what are we doing? I'll tell you what we're doing. We're doing corruption. That's what we're doing.
Yeah,
So, yeah, we need dark money out of politics. I mean, the list goes on and on. Most times I feel overwhelmed because every day I learn about new stuff. Like, I'm right now studying up on private equity and how that is destroying our housing market and our medical. And now they're actually going after our tradesmen, our small businesses.
right,
Small businesses are like the backbone of our country, and we're running all of our mom and pops out of business.
right.
So, I mean, like I said, the list just goes on and on. We're being attacked at every angle.
So we need to elevate you and have people help your campaign. In order to do that, we are going to put a link up here.
Okay.
So where I'm pointing, you'll have a link, and it's to the actblue.com donate cash for GA. That's your
Okay.
last name, Cash
Yep.
for Georgia.
Yep.
So we're going to put that link up here so that people can see that, and people
I appreciate it.
can have access to that. Plus, we'll put it down in the notes below so that people can actually access that link. We need for people to go on to that ActBlue and help support
Yeah.
you in your campaign. That's what
I'm not taking any corporate money. I haven't, got any, I'm not participating in dark money. So all of my money comes from small donors that send anywhere from $1 up to my largest donation has been $1,000 so far.
right. And that's good. That's
So
good.
yeah.
That's good because it takes people from all backgrounds and all socioeconomic places to be able to
Exactly.
support your campaign, and that's what we're asking people to do. If
And
all you can give is
they've got enough millionaires and lawyers up there in Washington.
right,
They need some regular people.
and that's what we love about this. That's what Coffee with Democrats. That's our fundamentals is grassroots. We are a grassroots organization, and we want to help other people with their grassroots organizations as well.
Good.
So we want people to, again, it's go to secure.actblue.com, donate cash for Georgia, and support Tambrie because she is an exceptional candidate. Then we want everybody to know about you, and we want everybody to be able to vote. And it goes back to, I make a closing remark on these, and I'm going to start with a new one today.
Okay.
I will support and promote Democrats. I will register Democrats. I will vote for Democrats. I will elect Democrats. That's our pledge as a Democrat. We have to be able to have other people do the same thing. And sometimes it comes to that financial contribution, and that's what we need for people to understand. We need to be able to do that from a grassroots level, especially for people who are not taking corporate money. So thank you so much for
I
being
just
on.
want to add one quick piece. When we encourage people to donate to you, what we're really offering them is an opportunity to invest in themselves,
Right.
in their own community, in their own values. So it's not just a contribution to win your election. It really is an investment in their future as well. So
Right.
for everybody that can send a dollar, send a dollar. If you could do more, then do more. But the
Absolutely.
main thing is just invest yourself in this work.
Yes.
Well, Tambrie, thank you so much for being on Coffee with Democrats.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And until the next time, folks, please be safe.